Most people think a marriage falls apart because of one big fight. Mine didn't. It fell apart because my wife laughed at me while everyone else joined in. And for the first time in years, I didn't laugh along. That Saturday evening, we were hosting a small dinner at our house. 4 of her closest friends sat around the patio with glasses of wine while I worked the grill in the backyard. The music was low, everyone seemed relaxed, and I honestly thought it would be a good night. I was wrong. One of her friends asked me how work was going. I smiled. Busy, we're expanding our client list this quarter. Before I could say anything else, my wife let out a loud laugh. Oh, don't let him fool you, she said, waving her hand. He acts like he's running some huge company. Everyone looked at her. She wasn't finished. He owns a tiny maintenance business. Half the time he comes home smelling like paint and drywall. A couple of people chuckled. I forced a smile. It's honest work, I said. She shrugged. Sure, but sometimes I wonder what my life would have looked like if I'd married someone a little more ambitious. More laughter. Not loud. Not cruel. Just enough. Some people think small laughs don't hurt. They do when they're aimed at you. I looked around the table. Nobody defended me. One of her friends actually added, well, at least he's handy. They all laughed again. I flipped another burger without saying a word. Inside, something shifted. The strange part wasn't that she'd embarrassed me. It was that she looked proud of herself. Like making me the punchline somehow made her more interesting. Later that night, after everyone left, she walked into the kitchen humming while stacking dishes. I asked quietly, did you mean what you said? She barely looked up. Oh my God. What? It was a joke. It didn't feel like one. She sighed dramatically. You're too sensitive. I didn't mind people laughing, I said. I minded that it started with you. She rolled her eyes. Do we seriously have to do this? I'm asking because it mattered to me. No, she said. You're asking because your ego got bruised. That word stayed with me. Ego. As if wanting basic respect was arrogance. I nodded once. Okay. She looked surprised that I wasn't arguing. That's it. Yeah. You're not going to keep going. No. She frowned. Normally, I would have spent an hour trying to explain how I felt. Normally, I would have apologized just to end the tension. That night, I went upstairs. She stayed in the kitchen. The silence between us felt louder than any argument we'd ever had. The next morning, I left early for work. No goodbye. No kiss. No message. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Emily, are you still upset? I looked at the screen for a few seconds before replying. Me, I'm working. Nothing else. That evening I came home, made dinner for myself, and went through invoices at the dining table. She kept glancing at me. Finally she said, you're being weird. I'm just busy. So you're still punishing me. I'm not punishing you. It feels like you are. I looked up. I asked one question last night. And you answered it. She stared at me. What does that mean? It means I believe you. She frowned. I told you it was a joke. I know. Then why are you acting like this? Because jokes usually make both people laugh. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time since we'd been married. She had no comeback. The next few days followed the same pattern. She criticized little things. I stopped defending myself. She complained that I was distant. I stopped explaining. She wanted arguments. I gave her calm. It confused her more than anger ever had. 3 days later, she invited another group of friends over for drinks. She walked into my office and leaned against the door. You'll be joining us tonight. I don't think so. She crossed her arms, still embarrassed. No. Then what's your problem? I don't enjoy being entertainment. She laughed again. There you go, taking everything personally. Then she said the sentence that ended our marriage. If you can't handle a little joke, maybe you're just not the man I thought I married. I looked at her for a long second. Then I simply nodded. Maybe you're right. She smiled like she'd won. She had no idea that less than an hour later, my phone would ring, and the person on the other end would give me information that changed everything I thought I knew about my own marriage. I almost ignored the call. The number wasn't saved, and I was in no mood to talk to anyone. After the week I'd had, I figured it was another spam call. I answered anyway. Hello. A woman's voice replied. Is this Daniel? Yes. My name is Karen. I'm with the event committee for the Chamber of Commerce banquet. I frowned. I think you have the wrong number. No, I don't. Your wife recommended you a few months ago. That caught my attention. Recommended me for what? She paused. To sponsor next month's business networking event. I leaned back in my chair. Sponsor? Yes, she told us your company would likely contribute $10,000. For a few seconds, I didn't say anything. $10,000. Emily had never mentioned any of this. Karen continued. We've been trying to reach her because the payment deadline is Friday. I wasn't aware of any sponsorship. Oh. Her tone changed immediately. I'm so sorry. She seemed very confident when we spoke. It's fine, I said. Thank you for letting me know. After hanging up, I sat there staring at my phone. It wasn't about the money. It was about the assumption. She had volunteered my business, my work, my reputation. Without asking. The same business she'd mocked in front of her friends. That night, I waited until after dinner. Can I ask you something? Emily barely looked up from her phone. Sure. Did you promise $10,000 from my company to sponsor an event? Her head snapped up. Who told you that? So it's true. She sighed. It would have been good exposure. You volunteered my company. I was going to tell you. When? I don't know. I nodded slowly. You told your friends my business was nothing special. She rolled her eyes. Oh, not this again. But when people needed money. It wasn't like that. It sounds exactly like that. She stood. You're twisting everything. No. I'm trying to understand why the career you're embarrassed by suddenly becomes valuable when someone else benefits. She folded her arms. You know what your problem is. No. You always need validation. I almost laughed. For years, every disagreement somehow became my fault. If she interrupted me, I wasn't listening enough. If she forgot something, I wasn't reminding her. If she insulted me, I was too sensitive. The pattern suddenly looked painfully obvious. I'm not arguing, I said. I noticed. I just won't sponsor the event. Her expression hardened. You'll embarrass me. I didn't volunteer. You'll make me look like a liar. I met her eyes. You already did that. She stormed upstairs without another word. The next morning, I left before she woke up. Around lunch, my assistant walked into my office. Your wife stopped by. I looked up. She came here. Yeah. Why? She wanted copies of our sponsorship package. I frowned. I never approved one. I know. I told her that. What did she say? He hesitated. She laughed. Laughed. She said. He looked uncomfortable. Don't worry, he'll do whatever I tell him eventually. Something inside me went completely quiet. That sentence bothered me more than the dinner. More than the jokes. More than the money. Because it wasn't disrespect. It was certainty. She genuinely believed I had no boundaries. That I'd always give in. That evening, I didn't mention it. Instead, I watched. For the first time in years, I stopped reacting. She complained that I wasn't talking. I simply nodded. She criticized dinner. I said, okay. She left dirty dishes on the counter. I cleaned only mine. Every little thing she'd taken for granted, I quietly stopped doing. 3 days later, she noticed. You didn't do the laundry. I washed my clothes. You usually wash mine too. I know. She stared. You forgot. No. You did it on purpose. I just handled my responsibilities. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This isn't how marriage works. I answered calmly. I agree. Silence. She expected an apology. Instead, I walked out to the garage. That night, I heard her on the phone with one of the same friends from the dinner. She didn't know I was walking past the office. I don't know what's wrong with him, Emily said. He barely reacts anymore. A muffled voice answered. She laughed. He'll get over it. He always does. I kept walking. For the first time. I hoped she was wrong. The following Friday, she came home unusually cheerful. I fixed everything. I looked up from my laptop. What do you mean? I told the event committee we'd still sponsor them. I closed the laptop. With whose permission? She blinked. Ours. There is no ours. We're married. My company isn't. Her smile disappeared. Seriously. I already declined. You can't do that. I already did. She stepped closer. You are making me look ridiculous. I stood. No. You promised something that wasn't yours. Her voice became sharp. So you're really willing to humiliate your own wife? I looked at her for a long moment. I think we've reached the point where we're using different definitions of humiliation. She folded her arms. So what now? I think we need some space. She laughed. Oh, please. You'll cool off tomorrow. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked upstairs, opened the closet, pulled out a suitcase. When I came back down, she wasn't laughing anymore. Wait, what are you doing? I'm staying at my brother's place for a while. You can't be serious. I am. She grabbed my wrist. Daniel. I gently pulled away. No. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Then came the words she thought would make me stay. Fine. If you walk out that door, don't expect me to beg you to come back. I picked up the suitcase. I wasn't expecting you to. 20 minutes later, I drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could still see her standing on the porch. She looked confident, almost amused, like she believed I'd be back by Monday. She had no idea that while I was driving away, my phone buzzed with a message from an attorney I'd contacted earlier that afternoon. The first appointment was already scheduled. The attorney's office was quiet. No dramatic music. No life-changing speech. Just a receptionist handing me a clipboard while a coffee machine hummed in the corner. An hour later, I walked back to my truck carrying a folder instead of uncertainty. The attorney had said something simple. If you're sure, don't drag this out. The longer you wait, the harder it becomes. For the first time in weeks, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Emily texted that night. Emily, are you done being dramatic? I looked at the message, then locked my phone. The next morning came another one. Emily, Mom thinks you're overreacting. No reply. By Sunday afternoon, she finally called. I answered. What? You've made your point. I wasn't trying to. Then come home. I'm not ready. She let out an irritated sigh. You've embarrassed me enough. I almost laughed. Even now. It was about embarrassment. Not respect. Not the marriage. just how things looked. I'll have someone pick up the rest of my clothes this week. She went quiet. What do you mean? I've decided to file. The silence lasted several seconds. Then she laughed. Stop it. I'm serious. No, you're trying to scare me. I'm not. You always calm down. I already have. Click. She ended the call. Monday morning. She showed up at my office. My assistant knocked before opening my door. Your wife's here. I took a slow breath. Send her in. Emily walked inside without smiling. She closed the door behind her. So, she crossed her arms. How long are you planning to keep this up? I'm not keeping anything up. You made your point. I don't think I did. She frowned. What is that supposed to mean? It means this isn't about the dinner anymore. She scoffed. You're seriously ending a marriage over one joke. No. It's ending because that joke wasn't unusual. Her expression changed. I continued. It was just the first time I stopped pretending it didn't bother me. She looked away. I said I was sorry. I shook my head. No. You said I was too sensitive. She didn't answer. You said it was my ego. Silence. You said I'd embarrass you if I didn't clean up a promise you made with my business. She swallowed. You laughed when you told people I'd eventually do whatever you wanted. Her eyes widened. You heard that. I did. For the first time since all of this started. She didn't have an explanation. Only silence. 3 days later. She was served. She called 12 times. Then 20. Then started leaving voicemails. The first few were angry. You're unbelievable. You're throwing everything away. People are asking questions. A week later. The tone changed. Can we just talk? I didn't think you'd actually leave. Please call me. I never blocked her. I just stopped living inside every notification. The first karma wave came quietly. The Chamber of Commerce event still happened. Without my company. Emily had to explain why the sponsorship disappeared. A mutual friend later told me she blamed a misunderstanding. No one believed that explanation for long. Because people started comparing stories. One friend remembered the jokes at dinner. Another remembered how often she'd interrupt me. Someone else admitted they'd always thought she was too comfortable putting me down in public. The image she'd carefully built started cracking on its own. The second wave came a month later. Her closest friend, the same one who'd laughed and called me handy, ran into me at a hardware store. She looked uncomfortable. Hey, Daniel. Hi. She hesitated. I owe you an apology. I didn't say anything. I thought Emily exaggerated when she talked about you. She looked down. But after everything that's happened, she sighed. I think we all encouraged her. I nodded once. I appreciate you saying that. She looked relieved. I don't think she expected any of this. Neither did I. That was the entire conversation. No anger. No scorekeeping. Just two adults acknowledging the truth. The final karma wave wasn't financial. It wasn't social. It was emotional. About 3 months after I moved out, Emily asked if we could meet for coffee. I almost declined. Instead, I agreed. She looked different. Not because she'd changed physically. Because she looked tired. The confidence she'd worn like armor was gone. She stirred her coffee without drinking it. I keep replaying that dinner. I stayed quiet. I thought everyone was laughing with me. She looked up. I didn't realize they were laughing at you. I answered honestly. I think part of you did. She closed her eyes. I never thought you'd actually leave. I know. I thought you'd argue. I used to. She nodded slowly. I kept waiting for you to call. I know. I kept thinking you'd miss me. I missed the woman I married. Her eyes filled with tears. But I stopped recognizing her long before I left. Neither of us spoke for almost a minute. Finally, she whispered, "If I had one more chance." I gently interrupted. "I don't think either of us needs another chance." She looked at me, not angry, not defensive, just sad. For the first time, she understood something she'd never understood during our marriage. Respect isn't something you apologize for losing after it's gone. It's something you protect before it's too late. The divorce was finalized a few months later. There wasn't a celebration. No dramatic ending. I moved into a smaller townhouse closer to work. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes. I started taking weekends off. I reconnected with friends I'd slowly drifted away from over the years. Business kept growing, not because I suddenly became more successful, but because I finally had the energy to focus on it, instead of constantly trying to prove its value to the person who should have appreciated it most. Sometimes people ask me what finally ended my marriage. They expect me to talk about lawyers, or divorce papers, or the day I moved out. But that's not the answer. The marriage didn't end when my wife mocked my career in front of her friends. It ended the moment I realized that the person sitting closest to me had become the one most comfortable making me feel small. And the first time I chose silence over another argument, I finally heard the truth I'd been ignoring for years. Not every relationship ends because someone stops loving you. Some end because one day you realize you've stopped respecting yourself. And the day you decide to change that, peace quietly takes the place where desperation used to live.